Let me guess. You're not trying to get rich overnight. You're not chasing meme stocks or gambling your future on some sketchy investment. You just want to be safe. You want something reliable, something that won't blow up your life if things go wrong. So you put your money where everyone says responsible adults put it. And yet, somehow years keep passing, and your financial position doesn't feel meaningfully stronger. If you've ever thought I did the smart thing, so why does this still feel slow? Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about today. My name is Brian, and I spend way too much time thinking about why people who choose safe investments often end up quietly losing ground. If you're someone who avoids risk, wants stability, and just doesn't want to mess this up, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today we're re-breaking down why most people pick the wrong safe investment. Not because they read careless, but because they misunderstand what safety actually means. Here's the belief almost everyone starts with. Safety means avoiding volatility. If the value doesn't move much, it must be safe. If it doesn't scare you, it must be responsible. So people gravitate toward things like cash, savings accounts, money market funds, CDs, or ultra-conservative portfolios. And on the surface, that feels smart. Nothing dramatic happens. Nothing breaks. Nothing panics you. But here's the thing. Stability and safety are not the same thing. Look, avoiding loss feels logical. Loss hurts more than gain feels good. That's loss aversion. And behavioral economists have studied it for decades. But when you define safety purely as not going down, you ignore a much quieter risk. And that risk is falling behind slowly enough that you daren't notice until it's permanent. The biggest financial risk most people face isn't a sudden crash. It's inflation combined with time. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average inflation rate over the last several decades sits around 3%. That means money that earns 1% or less ISNT just underperforming at shrinking in real terms every single year. This is where it gets really interesting. When inflation eats your purchasing power, it doesn't show up as a red number on your account statement. Your balance doesn't drop. Nothing flashes warning signs. You just quietly lose future options. Your money looks safe, but its usefulness decays. And that S, so many people feel like they did everything right and still ended up behind. Let's put some numbers on this. Say you park $50,000 in something earning 1%. After 20 years, you'll have about $61,000. Sounds fine until you adjust for inflation. At 3% inflation, that $61,000 has the purchasing power of roughly $34,000 today. You didn't lose money on paper. You lost it in reality. Psychologically, this happens because our brains fear visible loss more than invisible loss. Watching an account dip 10% feels terrifying. Watching it slowly fail to keep up with the world feels, well, normal. So people choose emotional comfort over mathematical safety without even realizing they're making a trade. For most people, the wrong safe investment is excessive cash. I'm not talking about your emergency savings. That's absolutely essential. But I am talking about long-term money that is just sitting in ultra-low return vehicles because they feel responsible. But beyond a necessary buffer, it's actually one of the riskiest long-term assets you can hold. Now you might be thinking, Brian, cash kept people alive during market crashes. And you're right, cash is stability. It's insurance. But insurance isn't supposed to be your growth engine. No one expects their home insurance policy to build wealth. It's there to protect against disaster. Treating your long-term cash like a growth investment is where things go wrong. So what does actual safety look like? Real safety isn't about avoiding movement. It's about survivability over decades. That means owning assets that can absorb volatility and outpace inflation. Historically, diversified equities have done exactly that. Over the long term, the stock market has returned around 7% after inflation, despite wars, recessions, and crashes. This is where people make a psychological mistake. They confuse volatility with danger. Volatility just means prices move up and down. Danger is permanent loss of purchasing power. And over long time horizons, inflation is far more reliable and far more destructive than market downturns. This is where it gets really interesting. People who avoid volatility often end up taking much more risk later in life. Because once they realize they're way behind on their goals, they panic, start chasing high returns. They abandon their careful plans. Meanwhile, people who accepted controlled, appropriate volatility early on can stay calm because the math is already working for them. This isn't an argument for reckless investing. It's an argument for taking the right amount of risk. We're talking about a diversified portfolio, time in the market, systems that don't rely on perfect timing or emotional strength, safety ISNT about never feeling uncomfortable. It's about reducing the chance of permanent failure. I've seen people sit in cash for 10 years waiting for the right moment to invest. Then I've seen them realize that the right moment passed quietly while they were waiting. Meanwhile, others invested steadily, ignored the noise, and ended up far ahead, not because they were braver, but because they understood the real risk. So what can you do? Here are 3 actionable steps. First, define the job of your money. Emergency fund. Cash is perfect. Short-term goals, like a down payment in 2 years. Conservative investments, long-term wealth. That's where growth assets come in. Mixing up these roles creates confusion and fear. Second, measure your returns in real terms. Always ask yourself, am I beating inflation? If the answer is no, over long periods, that investment isn't safe, it's just quiet. Third, automate your consistency. Most financial damage comes from emotional decisions, not bad math. Set up automatic investments, and you remove the temptation to react to every headline. Why does this matter more as you get older? As time becomes more valuable, the opportunity cost of being too conservative skyrockets. A decade of underperformance in your 20s hurts, but it's recoverable. A decade of underperformance in your 40s or 50s is far more expensive. That's why understanding this now matters so much. Here's the reframe that changes everything. The safest investment ISNT, the one that never scares you. It's the one that quietly protects your future purchasing power while you live your life. Comfort today should never cost you freedom tomorrow. You don't need to be extreme. You don't need to outsmart the market. You just need to stop confusing emotional comfort with financial safety. Because the biggest risk ISNT losing money quickly, it's losing it so slowly that you never even notice. If this video helped you rethink what safe really means, hit that like button. It helps more than you think. Subscribe for more real-world breakdowns of how money actually behaves. Comment below, what investment do you currently consider safe? I'll see you in the next one.